It's a battle that's been brewing for nearly 3 decades, the need for a major east-west route in Washington County to alleviate bottleneck traffic onto other exits coming into St. George.
The justification for the Northern Corridor is the fact that this is a fast-growing area. We anticipate our population in this area will double within the next 20 years. There will be more cars on the road, and there needs to be a place for those cars to drive so that they can get to their destinations quickly without having to negatively impact the air quality of the area. The Northern Corridor would reduce the traffic congestion by nearly 300,000 hours a year of cars idling in traffic.
The proposed Northern Corridor is a 4.5-mile 4-lane highway to be used as a bypass through Red Cliffs National Conservation Area. While only 1.9 miles of that is on BLM lands, the rest is on private lands. Due to a lawsuit filed by Conserve Southwest Utah, the Northern Corridor intake permit has now come to a halt once again. But this time it has even bigger repercussions. Would also trigger the removal of Zone 6, which BLM knew about a year ago.
So if the right-of-way was to be rescinded or canceled, technically Zone 6 the protections associated with it right now would no longer be in place. On the portions that are managed by the Utah Trust Lands Administration, there are some heightened protections that are currently in other BLM documents that are not being modified right now. So many of the protections would remain in place for the short term on those areas until we have a chance to relook at those to see if they would continue in the long term.
During a town hall meeting on Tuesday, Washington County Attorney Eric Clark told commissioners and the public that the rejection of the Northern Corridor plan takes away the agreed swapping of Zone 6 in Green Valley near Santa Clara.
We bought the Northern Corridor with Zone 6, right? Like when you go and you do a transaction, you pay for it with something. The currency we used was protecting all this habitat. So we bought the corridor by paying for Zone 6. Well, if the thing that we bought for goes away, then legally what happens is we get our money back. And that's how the contract reads.
Under the current contract, Zone 6 protects a large number of Mojave Desert tortoise and their habitat, as well as thousands of recreational trails and the endangered bear-claw poppy.
SITLA agreed to offer up their developable property in Zone 6 in exchange for a Northern Corridor. But now that the Northern Corridor is temporarily off the table, that opens up their land to be developed into housing and luxury apartments.
Clark says a petition to try and protect Zone 6 may not work as it prefaces the using of federal funds.
If anybody tells you, hey, that's a solution to this problem, they're selling you snake oil. Because I reached out to our BLM office and I got the numbers. So the current fiscal year, nationwide, there was $40 million put in that pot. And our county is getting $2.5 million of that. Which, again, remember, it has to go to the Zone 3 area first. We have to acquire the land in the National Conservation Area before we can move to the Zone 6 area.
While Conserve Southwest Utah's lawsuit appears to preserve the desert tortoise to the north, it now opens up Zone 6 to new development. SITLA representatives have already acknowledged their intent to open up Zone 6 for development for affordable housing.
It's called the Tonquin parcel, and where it is just west of Bloomington in the Tonquin area. We have 3,000 acres there. We're releasing 1,500 acres of it for affordable housing. This one is a very developable piece because the utilities are there at this parcel, and it's connected to town. Now, this parcel, I just leave this one to the last because we're actually not going to release it if it's contingent. Basically, right now it's in the Habitat Reserve, the Red Desert Habitat Reserve, but it's conditional upon the Northern Corridor. So this was put in when the Northern Corridor was as part of the trade for the Northern Corridor that goes through. If that Northern Corridor comes out, then this piece comes back out and becomes available for affordable housing.
That they already have a request for proposal for development for a portion of Zone 6 now. They haven't accepted one yet, so I don't know how long they would wait. But I can tell you that their level of frustration with the federal government is up to here, and they're to the point where they're to hell with it. We're going to move forward. We can't wait for decades and decades and decades to do this.
Those in the crowd were not happy to hear they could lose their recreational grounds, as well as the impact on the tortoise habitat and the bear claw poppy, both of which are considered endangered.
You have a very limited resource. You also have the most beautiful place I've ever been in. And that is something that people here are worth fighting for, and they're asking you to please fight for that. Fight for the future.
All of us who recreate, work, live, and play here, I ask you to be mindful of that because I'm here differently. So thank you for keeping us in mind. Thank you for making this available to us. We are looking at generations forward.
I don't really care about the road. The road to me is the way we get Zone 6 to be safe. So if everybody
The tortoises have done well with our non-motorized recreation. We just have to keep doing that.
According to the SEIS drawn up by the BLM and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, granting the Northern Corridor right-of-way and take permit would potentially impact the trend of increasing frequency of wildfires, the rise of noxious weeds, and invasive species after the fires, which would in turn have an impact on the Mojave Desert tortoise.
One of the things they pointed out was that wildfires will increase and the intensity will increase.
There's cheap grass everywhere, right? Fine fuels that spark easily. And so that's what they're talking about. The roads serve as a fire break. It serves as access to get to a fire that you can't get to now. It's very, very difficult to get trucks out to actually fight a fire in the reserve right now.
To mitigate that, the preferred alternative route in the SEIS would be to use Red Hills Parkway as the expressway.
Federal highways will not allow us to put interchanges closer than a mile to one another without a collector-distributor road, which would add probably 6 lanes through the cut. And as you can go through that cut now and look, there's not enough room for 2 more lanes, let alone 6.
Transportation experts say this would require building new on and off ramps off I-15 and eliminating at least 13 businesses.
Another interchange a quarter mile in at 1000 East, where Motel 6 and Tropical Smoothie Cafe is. That whole area becomes an interchange because, again, it's an expressway. It's not a road that you can access from the surface.
It would also require widening of the road, virtually eliminating access to Pioneer Park, Dixie Rock, and the Desert Gardens with no left turns.
Which would essentially go up in there and widen the shoulders out 10 feet on either side and close down all left turn lanes, which would essentially take out Pioneer Park. It would no longer be a useful area. The Water Conservancy District building would be spared, but it would be a right-in, right-out only.
The other alternatives in the plan have also been ruled out.
So the other alternatives would be to make 100 South and St. George Boulevard a one-way couplet, which even the environmentalists admit is a bad idea because it would despoil the downtown feel and the walkability feel of St. George. And the other option, which I think is actually a better option, is the T-Bone Mesa option. But because of the compromise between UDOT, Washington County, and the BLM and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we came up with the UDOT alternative. The plans are 60% complete. We've spent millions of dollars on this project already. And this latest action will delay the construction of the Northern Corridor for about 4 years.
Is there still on the table a viable alternative other than the Northern Corridor that keeps SITLA's mandate fulfilled?
No.
This is supposed to be a town hall meeting. First SITLA, first CSU, you made an accusation about CSU. They should be here to represent their thoughts. It's supposed to be a town hall meeting. This is a one-way sales pitch.
The doors downstairs are also locked.
Well, your Northern Corridor is not going to be enough either, and you're going to want to expand that also. So let's just be honest, and we have a better solution, and you just don't want to hear it.
No,
I've had the head of Conserve Southwest in my office in the last couple of months talking through this issue. Admittedly, I was pleading with them to just not make a final decision before the administration changes, because as soon as that final decision is made, Zone 6 goes away.
However, according to a change in federal law by the Biden administration in June of 2023, some of the most imperiled plants and animals protected under the Endangered Species Act would allow for relocation, and finding these species or habitat can delay or prevent real estate development. If Zone 6 is developed, the tortoises may have to be removed.
Be relocated according to the typical practices that we're now abiding by anytime any kind of a development is built. Those tortoises would be relocated to a different area.
While many in the room wanted to find a fair trade for Zone 6, the county says nothing is valued at what the property is worth to SITLA, which has a mandate by the state constitution to develop land and get the most money in perpetuity of future school children.
We're trying to protect Zone 6 forever, okay? The only way we have found to do that, and I understand that it's really easy to think of both, we can do away with the road and we can keep Zone 6, but we've never seen a way yet, short of the money, the land trade, or generating some other economic value.
The community is that all three organizations that are involved in said thing is not communicating. And all of you say something different. So it's like, as a community, how do we trust the county? How do we trust the BLM? How do we trust the conservation group?
While the final SEIS has extended the wait period to December 9th, it doesn't say that future comments will be entered in for a change of decision. However, people in the town hall were encouraged to express their substantive comments.
Call your friends at the BLM administration in Washington, D.C. and tell them not to sign this record of decision. It's a bad deal for Zone 6. That's how it happens.
And despite that deadline, the county is hoping that the new Trump administration will play a key role in the final decision so they won't have to start from scratch.
What we cannot settle for is a game of ping pong where we get it approved and taken back every 4 years. We have to find a way to have some closure on this issue, and Congress authorized a road through the NCA. No judge is going to say that it's illegal to put a road through there when Congress was directed to study routes. And so at some point, we're going to have an approval that gets before a judge, that the judge says, obviously this is legal, and then we build a road. That's how we get closure on this issue.
If it is issued, the take permit would only last 25 years, and the agreement would have to be renewed again in the future. Those who attended are hoping that the entities involved can come together with a viable agreement that will, in the end, appeal to all.
We get better habitat, we're going to protect better recreation, and we're going to find a way to get traffic to flow. All of those things are not only awesome to me, but I'm sitting here saying thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to say I don't think we're that far apart, other than some of you might have to drive that road for you to believe that it's going to be as beautiful as in my mind it is.
In Washington County, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.